I acquired a small food stall with a very special power. It lets me travel freely between the apocalypse and reality. I thought I'd be torn to shreds by zombies the moment I arrived, but this stall comes equipped with absolute defense. No, I'm going to build a commercial empire in this wasteland. I'm holding my phone listening to my girlfriend's cold voice. Let's break up. You've hopped through 3 jobs in 3 years and haven't saved a cent. She can't stand my poverty anymore, and she's already found someone else. She's moved on to some rich second-generation brat. I hang up and slump into my chai, feeling completely defeated. I spent 35,000 won trying to save my sick parent, but they're still gone. Now I'm Brock, left with nothing but this half-empty food stall. But suddenly the world around me starts to spin. The atmosphere shifts, and I realize I've actually reached the end of the world. I look through the window and see a swarm of zombies. They're drawn to the stall and charge at me like starving animals. I think to myself, this is it, I'm dead. But the glass doesn't shatter, and the flimsy door doesn't even budge. A screen flickers to life. Apocalyptic era, shop status, absolute safety. If I stay here for 12 hours, I can return to my own world. I glance at the monsters outside and scratch my head in frustration. This tiny shop is packed with all kinds of basic supplies. Beef noodle, mineral water, brea and crackers. Back home, these things are worth next to nothing. But here, a wild idea starts to take root in my mind. In the apocalypse, gold and diamonds are trash. Food and clean water are king. I rush over to the shelves and grab a bottle of water. This bottle usually sells for 2 yuan back in the real world. What is it worth in a world infested with the undead? I think about my massive debt and my ex-girlfriend's cruel words. I crack open the bottle and take a long, cold swig. I have 12 hours to make this work. I need to secure my first real profit right now. I start doing the math for my new prices. 1 bottle of water for 1 gram of gold. And that's too cheap. 10 grams for what? 100 for noodles? I force myself to calm down. I need actual customers first. But with zombies blocking the dew, who would dare come near? I'm not about to sit here and waste 12 hours doing nothing. My eyes land on the braised beef noodle and a plan forms. This world smells like rust and rotting flesh. Is there anything more tempting than the scent of fresh noodles? I find the power switch and flip it on. The kettle starts to bubble. The stall actually has electricity. It seems this system-bound space is completely independent of the outside world. The water reaches a boy and I pour it in. Suddenly, a rich, savory aroma explodes throughout the shop. My own mouth starts watering, but I have a problem. How do I get this scent outside without opening the door? I look up and spot the exhaust fan. It's time to go to work. Time ticks minute by minute. Outside, it's still deathly silent, just as my patience starts to wear thin. Suddenly, a flash of fire erupts. It slowly engulfs the dozens of zombies surrounding my shop. I peek cautiously through the window to see who's there. A woman's gaze scans my show, which looks completely out of place among the ruins. Interesting, she says. Someone actually has the guts to open a shop in this ghost town. She starts walking straight toward the entrance. But a second late, she slams right into the invisible glass wall. You're an awakened too? This must be your ability. I'm Ye Jin. How much for the food? I look her in the eye and give her my terms. What era do you think this is? Who uses that useless paper money anymore? I only accept gold here. She scoffs at my stubborn attitude, her eyes narrowing. Yejin raises her hand and a ball of fire flies straight at my face. The fire vanishes the moment it hits the barrier. Can we talk business now? I ask. Finn boss, how much for the instant noodles? Not much. 100 grams of gold. Why don't you just rob me? Gold is scrap metal, no, but it's not exactly lying in the street. Then don't buy it. I turn my back and ignore her. Instead, I start eating the bowl of noodles I just prepared. The sound of me slurping the noodles is loud and obnoxious in the silence. I see Eugenia's throat move as she swallows hard, her eyes fixed on my bowl. She probably can't remember the last time she had a whole steaming meal. She likely survives on scavenged cans and her tasteless energy bars. Those things keep you alive, but they don't satisfy a real craving. Her stomach lets out a low, traitorous growl. It's a faint sound, but in this quiet, it sounds like a thunderclap. Yejin's cheeks immediately flush a embarrassed red. I pretend not to hear and keep enjoying my delicious meal without a word. I don't have that much gold on me. Can I pay you back later? The shop doesn't do credit. I'm not running a chariot, and I'll be gone in 12 hours anyway. Who knows if she'd even make it back with the gold before I leave. I finish the last bite of noodles and let out a satisfied burp. I grab a ham sausage from the shelf and toss it toward her. It sails through the air in a perfect arc toward the barrier. I act like it's as worthless as a piece of trash on the street. Yejin freezes. To he, this casual gesture is a blatant insult. But her logic tells her to swallow her pride and eat. Time seems to stand still. After 2-second hunger wins. She devours the sausage in 3 desperate bites. That was just a sample. 100 grams for a full bowl. Fair deal? Wait for M, she muttered, turning her back to leave. She just needs to find a survivor camp nearby. Or maybe an old bank vault from before the world fell apart. Scrounging up 100 grams of gold shouldn't be too hard for her. But I call out and stop her before she gets too far. Why? I saw, reaching slowly under the counter. I pull out a cold, condensation-covered can of Coke, the legendary ice-cold cola. This drink was common before the foul, but now it's more precious than fine wine. This can cost 50 grams of gold, I say flatly. I don't even wait for her to respond. I just rip open another pack of spicy Latiao snacks right in front of her. These are cheaper, only 30 grams of gold per pack. Spicy soup, cold call, and steaming instant noodles. Back in the old world, this was the cheapest meal you could buy. But her, the scent alone is an unbearable temptation. I hear Yejin's knuckles crack as she clenches her fists. I make sure she sees that I have plenty of stock left. She turns and vanishes into the ruins to hunt for more gold. I check my system. 10.5 hours until I can travel back. I start counting. 10 cases of noodle, 15 cases of bottled water. I have snacks and sausages piled high on the shelves. I even find 5 fresh eggs tucked away in a corner. A devious new business plan starts to form in my mind. Suddenly, a heavy thud echoes from outside the shop. Yejin is back, looking exhausted and slightly embarrassed. She's clutching a heavy black bag in her hand. 200 grams of gold, she pants. It's all I have. The system asks, allow item to enter the safe zone? I give the mental command, and an invisible force snatches the bag. It floats through the barrier and drops heavily at my feet. Yejin's eyes widen as she watches the impossible happen. To he, I'm becoming a terrifyingly mysterious figure. I pull out the braised beef noodle, the ice-cold cock, and the snacks. I boil a fresh pot of water right in front of her hungry eyes. I walk toward the dew, holding the steaming bowl of noodles. She reaches out, but I stop just out of her grasp. I pull an egg from my pocket and smirk. Want an egg with thy, beautiful? She glares at me. How much? 50 grams of gold, I reply flatly. 50 grams for 1 egg? You're a thief. Then don't buy it. My eggs are only for those who can pay. I start to put the egg back into my pocket. I can see the desperation fighting with her pride. Yejin is a powerful flame user. She's used to being the one in charge, but today I have her completely at my mercy. She reaches into her belt and pulls out a crystal the size of a pigeon egg. I'm out of gold, she mutters. Take this stone for the egg instead. I raise an eyebrow, acting like I'm unimpressed by the pebble. I'm about to reject it when a system window flashes in my vision. I realize I've been looking at this business all wrong. I was so focused on paying off my 35,000 yen debt back home. But these crystals, these are the real treasure of this world. I understand their value, no. But I keep a look of disgust on my face. What is this, some broken rock? I is hiding my excitement. It's a core from a monster's brain. The ultimate fuel for power. Gold isn't even fit to polish the shoes of a crystal like this. Yejin is shaking with fur, realizing I'm not here to play fair. Yejin is shaking with rage. She thinks I'm either stubborn or just plain blind. I see her about to snap and I just sigh. Fine. Since you're so sincere, I'll make an exception just this once. I give a silent command to the system. The crystal box vanishes from her hand in an instant. I don't even look at it as I tuck it away. I slide it into my pocket and hand her the food. A bowl of supreme noodles with a luxury egg, a cock, and the spicy snacks. She grabs the fork and starts shoveling it, not leaving a single green onion behind. She drains the broth, cracks the cock, and downs it in one go. Then she devours the spicy snacks one by one. I watch the whole process in silence. I'll be back, she mutters. Yejin turns and disappears into the shadows of the street corner. Once she's gone, I pull out the crystal box. These come from zombies and can break the human genetic lock to grant powers. But if you fail, you disintegrate. The success rate is less than 1%. My hand shakes. I almost dropped the very thing I just traded for. A 1% success rate? That's not an opportunity, it's a death sentence. But then the shop system pings. Host is immune to all damage within store range. That includes physical trauma, energy surge, and genetic collapse. I look at the crystal again. For M, this is zero risk and all the reward. I think about Yejin summoning flames from nothing. I swallow the crystal whole. A second-late agony rips through my entire body. I curl up on the floor like a shrimp. The pain eventually fades, replaced by a surge of raw power. Am I awakened now? I can feel a terrifying strength flowing through me. I try to copy Yejin's pose. Fire. But nothing happens. Dammy, I fail. I grow, punching a shelf. Sudden all the shelf and everything on it just vanish. My mind connects to a strange empty void. The shelf is sitting right there in that void. I reach out with my min, and the shelf snaps back to its original spot. The system chimes. Spatial awakening. Personal storage warehouse unlocked. It's a 1 cubic meter space that exists outside of time. I spend the next hour practicing, moving my stock in and out of the void. I realize something. Gold pays my debt, but these crystals are the real currency of power. I have 9 hours left. I need to get as many of these as I can before I leave. If the smell of 1 pack of noodles brought Yeji, what would 20 do? I pull out a massive pot and start cooking 20 packs of noodles at once. I crank the exhaust fan to the max. This is my ultimate bait for the apocalypse. 3 blocks away, a group of survivors is huddled in an abandoned building. A man in glasses looks at their leader. Brother Taig, Xiaolu's wound is infected. We need medicine. The scarred Ma, Brother Taig, just stares into the dark. Food is gone. Medicine is a myth. They are at the end of their rope. Suddenly, a rick, savory aroma drifts through the air. Brother Tiger, someone is actually cooking noodles nearby. Logic tells them it's a trap. No one cooks openly in the apocalypse unless they're a monster. But their starving stomachs don't care about logic. Find it. Now, the man in glasses is practically salivating. Brother Tig, if we don't move there won't be anything left. Brother Tiger knows the reality of this world better than anyone. If they don't eat Sue, they'll starve. A flash of desperation hits his eyes. Let's go. They navigate the ruined streets until my small food stall comes into view. They see a massive pot of steaming noodles and sausage. And they see me. I'm leaning casually against the doorframe, watching them approach. This has trap written all over it. Their throats tighten with hunch, but fear keeps them from taking another step. Tiger spots another man lurking behind a wrecked car across the street. The stranger notices Tiger's group at the same time. He puts a finger to his lip, signaling for everyone to stay quiet. Tiger scans the area and realizes the shadows are crawling with people. There's a sniper barrel poking out of a second-story window to the left. A glint of steel hides behind the trash in the alley. 50 people are watching me. I know exactly how many eyes are on me. What's the matter? Not hungry. My voice isn't loud, but it carries to every single person hiding in the dark. I fish a sausage out of the pot and take a slow, deliberate bite. I'm here to do business. I have plenty of food and water for everyone. The man behind the wrecked car finally breaks the silence. What's the price? Gold or crystal core? I reply, my voice echoing through the square. The crowd is stunned. Crystals are pow, but gold is just scrap metal here. A voice screams from the alley. He's playing us. Let's just kill him and take it all. The atmosphere turns electric as everyone starts calculating their chances. I keep eating without looking up. Try but attackers lose their right to trade. The thug in the alley snaps. I don't believe this garbage. He steps out of the shadows and levels a shotgun directly at my chest. 2 more men follow high, armed with machetes and heavy steel pipes. The rest of the crowd wait, using these idiots as bait to test my defenses. The man pulls the trigger. The blast echoes through the ruins, but the buckshot doesn't reach me. The pellets hit an invisible wall 5 meters away from the stall and drop. I don't even flinch. I just pop another piece of sausage into my mouth. The square falls into a deathly silence. The thugs with the machetes are frozen. The man behind the car realizes physical attacks are useless and tries something else. An invisible ripple of energy begins to condense in the palm of his hand. He launches a mental shockwave at me, his piercing ability. The mental strike hits the barrier and vanishes without even a flicker. Now they understand the terrifying truth. Inside this show, I'm invincible. Brother Tiger is drenched in cold sway, thanking God he didn't move first. I finish my bowl and wipe my mouth, looking out at the hidden crowd. I lock eyes with the man who fired the shotgun. I told you, you're banned. Anyone else want to lose their dinner? The tension is so thick it's driving the survivors to the brink of madness. The rhythmic click of high heels breaks the silence. Everyone turns to see Yejin walking calmly toward the shop. Tiger recognizes her instantly. Every survivor in these ruins knows her name. She's a top-tier fire awakened. A living weapon of mass destruction. You've certainly made a name for yourself, Tota, she says to me. She turns to the crowd. There are always fools who don't know when to quit. Put your toys away. Even I can't scratch this shop. Don't be stupid. The square falls silent again. This time, no one dares to argue. Brother Tiger takes a deep breath and steps out from the crowd with his hands raised. One by one, the other survivors hiding in the shadows begin to show themselves. Yejin ignores the crowd and pulls several items from her belt. 3 bars of solid yellow gold, each weighing 100 grams. I want biscuit, canned good, and water. Anything easy to carry and store. For a top-tier hunte, processy, ready-to-eat food is the only rational choice. I like doing business with people who actually have a brain. I quickly pull out compressed biscuits and stacks of cans, luncheon meat, and several bottles of clean water. The transaction is finished in second, and Yejin disappears back into the ruins. Every pair of eyes in the square is now locked onto me. There's no more killing intent, just purr, desperate longing for a meal. Your turn. You know the rules. Gold or crystal cores for food. Suddenly, the man who tried to shoot me earlier breaks down. He crawls toward the shop on his hands and knees, sobbing. Boss, I was wrong. Please, just a bite of food, even just the leftover soup. His two companions drop to their knees beside Hai, begging for mercy. No one in the crowd feels a shred of pity for them. I already told you. If you attack, you lose your right to trade. I turn my back on them and address the rest of the survivors. Who's next? Brother Tiger steps forward and presents a gold crystal box with both hands. I take the box and slide it into my pocket. I don't say a word. I just hand over 3 large bowls of noodles and sausages. They bury their faces in the bowl, savoring a warmth they haven't felt in years. Seeing the first successful trad, the rest of the crowd loses all restraint. Boss, trade with me. I have a crystal core. The man who attacked me earlier quietly offers 2 more bucks, unable to look me in the eye. I take them without a word and hand him a bowl of noodles. Once the floodgates of trade are open, there is no stopping it. Some offer gold jeweler, others bring out crystal boxes of all different sizes. So, over 10 crystal boxes are piled up under my counter. The rush for noodles finally starts to slow down. But then something snaps. The 3 men I rejected are consumed by a, if I can't have I, no one can rage. One of them lunges at a survivor. He targets a weak man who is just about to eat. He smashes the bow, sending noodles and hot soup flying across the dirt. The other survivors stop eating, their eyes turning cold and murderous at the rule breaker. I stop serving and watch the scene unfold until a streak of fire cuts through the air. The man doesn't even have time to scream before he's turned into a pile of ash. The flames spread instantly, engulfing his 2 companions as well. In 3 seconds, all 3 of them are erased from existence. Yejin steps out of the darkness. I really hate people who break the rules. I grab a cold soda from the freezer and toss it to her as a thank you. I go back to stirring the giant pot of noodles. From that moment, the trading continues in absolute terrified harmony. Brother Tiger and his men finish every last drop of their soup. More and more people keep arriving from every corner of the ruins. By the time the sun starts to shift, my shelves are completely empty. It's an incredible haul. Not a single person complained about my prices. And after Yejin's display of power, no one dared to cause trouble. By the end of the day, I had sold every single item in the shop. Yejin tossed her empty soda can aside and walked toward me. You're a rich man, no, she said. When will you be back? I told her I didn't know, and she vanished into the darkness without another word. With a single throw, I opened my dimensional warehouse to check the haul. I had over 100 kilograms of gold and 33 new crystal cores. I knew that consuming this many cores at once would be pure agony, but I didn't hesitate. I swallowed every single one of them. This time the sensation wasn't just pain. It was an unimaginable expansion of my very soul. Without the shop's absolute defense, this energy would have shredded my body. I gritted my teeth through the torture until the last drop of power was absorbed. When I opened my eye, I saw a fly on the ceiling moving in slow motion. I could hear the zombies growling blocks away and smell the damp earth beneath the ruins. My senses had been sharpened to a godlike degree. I reached out toward a heavy shell and it began to hover in midair. This wasn't my storage ability, this was pure telekinesis. I checked my system. I had awakened a second power mind control. I can now manipulate objects from up to 50 kilometers away. My dimensional storage capacity had also expanded significantly. I sat in the silence of the apocalypse and waited for the countdown to hit 0. The world began to twist and distort as the teleportation triggered. The stench of rust and rotting flesh vanished instantly. In its place was the sweet scent of grass and soil. I was back in my own world. The dimensional transfer was complete and I was finally home. I had 12 hours to prepare before I had to go back. It was still dark out, so I collapsed onto my folding bed for a few hours. At 9 in the morning, I headed straight for the antique market. I walked into a dusty old shop and found the owner. Buying gold? I asked. He started asking about purity and paperwork. I didn't say a word to him. Instead, I slammed 2 heavy gold bars onto the counter. The heavy thud of the metal made him sit up straight immediately. He spent 10 minutes inspecting the bars with a magnifying glass. Good materia, he muttered. I'll give you 580,000. I looked him dead in the eye. 700,000. He started whining about the risks and the bribes he'd have to pay. I just stared at him until he realized I wasn't budging. Half a minute late, my phone buzzed with a notification. 700,000 yuan had been transferred to my account. I walked out of the market and called the debt collector, Brother Biao. Hello, who is this? A rough voice barked. It's me. I have the money for the debt. You actually got it? Fine. Meet me at the abandoned cement factory. He told me to be there at 3 o'clock and to come alone. I hung up and headed toward the factory to settle my past. It was time to show them that the weak version of me was gone. Brother Biao had 7 or 8 thugs standing right behind him. He watched me walk in alone, a smug look on his face. He spat out his cigarette and barked. Where's the money? And where are the debt papers? I asked calmly. Biao gave me a weird, predatory grin. Prices have gone up lately, and my boys need to eat. He held up 5 fingers. 500,000 and I'll burn the papers. I looked at him coldly. I really hate people who break the rules. I was going to pay the full 350, but now? You're only getting 200. My voice wasn't loud, but every person in that factory heard me clearly. Biao's face froze in disbelief. What did you just say to me? 200,000, not a single penny more. I don't repeat myself. One of his thugs raised a steel pipe and swung it at my head. He expected to see my skull shatter and blood spray the floor. But the pipe stopped 10 centimeters away from my face. I caught it effortlessly with one hand. The thug looked at M, his eyes bulging with confusion. He felt a sudden, crushing force wrap around his body. I didn't even blink as I used my mind to hurl him away. A scream of agony echoed through the factory as he hit the wall. Biao snapped out of his shock and ordered everyone to attack. They all rushed me at once. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter how many of them there were. They couldn't even touch the hem of my clothes. I moved like a blue, striking with lethal precision. In a second, the floor was littered with groaning bodies. Biao was shaking uncontrollably now, not with rage but with pure terror. Stay back! Do you have any idea who my boss is? The paper, I say, stepping toward him. He frantically pulled a stack of documents from his jacket. I transferred the 200,000 right in front of his face. It was supposed to be 350, but your greed just cost you a fortune. I ripped the debt papers into shreds and let them fall like snow. I walked out without looking back. That part of my life was finished. I headed straight to a used car lot and bought a van. I drove it to the city's largest wholesale food market. I walked into the warehouse and didn't give the clerk a chance to speak. I need 200 cases of instant noodles and 100 cases of sausages. She counted mine. 200 cases of biscuit, 100 cases of canned Mia, and all the water you have. The clerk looked at me like I was insane, but he didn't ask questions. When you're paying cash, no one cares why you're buying out the store. It took all day to load the van. I only had 2 hours left before the jump. My first trade was just a test. No, it was time to scale up the volume. I could feel the power humming in my vein, making this world feel alien. I decided to have one last decent meal before leaving this reality behind. I drove my rattling van to the most expensive restaurant in the city. Parked next to the Ferraris and Lamborghini, my van looked like a piece of junk. The valet looked at me with pure disgust, assuming I was in the wrong place. The valet tried to stop him, but I just tossed him a gold nugget the size of a bean. Park it right. If there's a scratch, I'll break your legs. The heavy weight of the gold in his hand left the valet frozen stiff. I ignored him and walked straight into the restaurant. Soft light, elegant diners, everything felt peaceful and refined. It was a world away from the rotting desolation of the apocalypse. I was looking at the menu when a girl's voice called out, "Xiao Wu." It was my Zhang Kia, standing next to that rich brat Wang Ao. He looked shocked to see me at first. Then he smirked, grabbed Zhang Qian's ways and walked over. "Well, if it isn't Xiao Wu, did you come here to wash dishes? A steak here costs 3,800. Your whole month's salary wouldn't buy a bite." "Too noise," I said to the air. "Tell the head chef to prepare his specialty." Wang Ao felt like he had punched a cloud of cotton. His insults didn't land. Being completely ignored made Zhang Qian feel incredibly small. She raised her voice, her tone shrill and desperate. "Are you deaf? I'm talking to you?" My face remained expressionless as I ignored her existence. To M, they were complete strangers. The manager Zhou rushed over. "Sai, please calm down and do not disturb the other guests." Wang Ao turned his arrogance toward the manager immediately. "Manager Zhou, perfect timing. What kind of trash are you letting in here now? Sitting someone like this here is just lowering the standards of your restaurant." Manager Zhu knew Wang Ao was the son of a local real estate tycoon, but he noticed my unnatural calm and the way I didn't even flinch. "Our restaurant treats all customers with the same level of respect," Zhu said. Then he saw the gold I had placed on the table. Manager Zhu immediately bowed 90 degrees. "Mr. Xiao W, please forgive our poor reception." I never once looked at Wang Ao as the manager escorted me to a private room. Wang Ao tried to shout something else, but the manager cut him off. "Mr. Wan, stop the scene immediately or security will escort you out." In the private room, they served me several exquisite world-class dishes. I used to dream of eating like that, but now? It tasted like nothing special. After the MEA, I drove back to my shop and prepared for the jump. I had exactly 150 seconds left on the clock. When the time hit zero, the city noise died, replaced by the silence of the wasteland. I noticed the cooldown for the next trip had dropped to 11 hours. I suspect that as I travel more, the cooldown will eventually disappear. Soon, I'll be able to move between worlds whenever I want. I could feel dozens of eyes watching me from the ruins. Word of my mysterious shop had already spread to the nearby survivor settlements. The people coming now weren't just lone scavengers, they were scouts for organizations. After 10 minutes, a man stepped out of the shadows and approached the stall. He had a rifle slung over his shoulder and stopped right in front of me. "I'm Siasi. I represent the Pansy settlement. And I want to talk." I didn't look up from my counter. "What's there to talk about? Our people need supplies. Food, wat, medicine, and we need weapons." "I don't sell weapon," I said flatly. Shiazi didn't look disappointed. He had clearly expected that answer. He pulled a heavy gold bar from his pocket and set it on the table. "This is just a deposit." We want to establish a long-term partnership. And because of that, we expect a special price. I didn't blink. My prices are the same for everyone. I noticed the shadow shifting behind him as his guards grew restless. Xiasi raised his hand, signaling his men to stay calm. We are being very sincere, her boss. I didn't say a word. I just reached into the void and grabbed a can of meat. It floated slowly through the air and landed softly on the counter. His pupils contracted violently. Telekinesis? He thought my only protection was that impenetrable barrier. He never expected me to be a powerful awakened myself. 1 gold bar per case. We need to know exactly how much stock you have in total. I cleared my throat and gave a casual snap of my fingers. A mountain of bottled water materialized out of thin air on the floor. Is that enough? I asked. Because if it's not, I snapped my fingers again. Another mountain of compressed biscuits appeared right next to the water. His Adam's apple bobbed nervously as he stared at the horde. This man didn't just have telekinesis. He possessed godlike spatial powers as well. How do we calculate the price for all of this? I already told you, 1 gold bar per case. We want it all, but it will take time to gather that much gold. Gold is fine for the small items on the shelves. But if you want to buy wholesale, you need to pay with a different currency. Crystal cores? Those are the source of our power, the foundation of our survival. It sounds like you're probably not mine. As soon as I finished speaking, both mountains of food vanished into the void. I held all the cards in this transaction and he knew it. If he didn't like the term, I'd just find someone else. Other settlements would jump at the chance while Pansy withered away. We need to negotiate the exchange rate. 100 gold bars plus crystal cores for the water. For the biscuit, the price doubles. Xiasi's fist clenched at his side. This was absolute highway robbery. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm. I need to report to my leader. Take this gold bar as a fee for my time. I nodded and took the gold without a word. He said nothing else and retreated slowly into the darkness. I went back to the counter and slowly wiped down the spotless surface. 10 minutes late, 3 more figures stepped out of the ruins. A middle-aged man with glasses led the way, followed by 2 soldiers. Hell, boss, I am Professor He from the far shelter. I didn't respond. I just stared at Hai, waiting for his pitch. From an economic perspective, your current model is unsustainable. Once a settlement loses its crystal core, it will inevitably collapse. Then who will you sell your products to? The few crystal cores left are worth even more now. The smug smile on Professor He's face froze instantly. I didn't care about their systems or their future. The pricing power was mine alone. Right, the agent stepped out of the shadows. A crystal core clattered onto my counter. She didn't say a single word. I pulled out a box of self-heating Rick, a tin of B, and 2 bottles. Of mineral water? Yejin grabbed the supply, turned around and left. The entire transaction happened in total silence. Professor He's rational analysis had become a total joke. 100 gold bars plus 10 pounds of cores for that pile. But the price just went up. You wasted 3 minutes of my time, so now it's 15. We have a Dea, he stammered. I might not be the strongest awakened in this wasteland, but inside these walls I was an invincible god. Professor He pulled a military communicator from his pocket and had the gold and 15 pounds of cores delivered in minutes. 20 minutes late, the roar of heavy engines echoed from the distance. 2 massive metal crates were slammed down in front of me. One was filled to the brim with gold bars. The other contained 15 pounds of high-grade crystal cores. I tossed the crates of water across the line the moment the trade was finalized. As the deal finished, several figures slowly emerged from the darkness. Scorpio was back, and he had a team of 20 armed men following close behind. Both sides instinctively leveled their weapons at each other. We brought what you asked for, Scorpio said as his men opened the heavy crates. There was the goal, plus 20 pounds of cores, 10 more than I'd requested. Scorpio was proving his loyalty with the most direct action possible. Professor He's face looked worse than a rotting corpse. He realized he was being completely outclassed in this negotiation. I waved my hand and pulled a massive haul of compressed biscuits and canned meat from my dimensional storage. I handed it over. Scorpio's breath hitched. His gamble had paid off. He immediately gave me a D, respectful bow, and then turned his cold gaze toward the professor. Professor, we're here to trade. I don't want any unnecessary trouble. But if the lighthouse wants to start something, we'll see it through to the end. As he finished speaking, 20 rifles behind him clicked as they were cocked. The lighthouse people hissed curses through their teeth. Let's G, the professor spat. I watched the whole scene in silence. It was actually quite interesting. One side relied on tech and ego, the other on raw strength and discipline. Once the lighthouse crew vanished, Scorpio bowed to me one last time, and then retreated quickly into the shadows. I had just cleared another massive haul of gold and cores from those 2 trades, but the quiet didn't last long. This time, 3 separate convoys were closing in from different directions. The roar of a zombie horde began to echo from every side. 3 different commanders gave their orders. Almost at the exact same moment. Prepare for battle. On one side, the rapid chatter of machine guns, pistols and assault rifles joined the chorus. On the other, fireballs and ice shards launched by the awakened. Once the last zombie took a bullet to the brain, the square fell into a temporary uneasy silence. Boss, where are the tomahawks? We have something to say. Our arc is also very sincere. Let's start there. The Tomahawks run this eastern sector. Since when do we wait in line? Boss, what's the deal? We came in good faith and cleared the zombies for you. Get in line. If the Tomahawks won't follow the rule, I won't sell you a damn thing. We're the Tomahawks. We have a reputation. Making an enemy of us won't end well. I don't care about making friends. Follow the rules or get out. Get in line. Where would that leave our pride? The bald man roared, making his choice. He waved his hand. Bring the goods. I'm buying first today. Someone broke the rules. The shop is closed. I waved my hand and sent every single item back into storage. The entire day's stock, the golden wheat field, was empty in a heartbeat. The other factions glared at the bald man with pure, unfiltered hatred. I brought gold and cores to show respect. Don't push your luck. No one disobeys the Tomahawks in the East District. Who do you think you are? I replied. I hate the sound of barking dogs. Open fire. Burn this piece of trash shop to the ground. A hail of bullets instantly tore toward the wheat field, but every single round slammed into an invisible, impenetrable shield. Not only am I banning the Tomahawk, but I'm offering 100 cases of canned meat for your life. Every member of the Tomahawks froze in shock. They watched as I raised my hand and 100 cases of canned meat materialized on the ground. Instantil, every eye in the square locked onto the bald leader. You all want a mutiny? I'm the third leader of the Tomahawks. The Ark accepts this bounty, one group shouted. We accept it too. Another joined in. You're all going to betray me? He screamed. His own men looked at each other. No one dared to meet his eyes. Loyalty in the apocalypse? It's the cheapest currency there is. Suddenly, a sharp blade pierced right through the bald man's chest. The one holding the knife was his own deputy. Why? The leader gasped. The deputy's face was a mask of stone. Leedy, the brothers need to eat. He turned toward the wheat field, his eyes hungry. We killed him. The bounty is ours. I said I'm not selling anything to the Tomahawks. They murdered their own lead, and they got absolutely nothing for it. If these men are no longer members of the Tomahawk, then the ban doesn't apply. I only refuse to deal with that specific gang. A man stepped forward. I'm Bale, supply manager for the Ark Sanctuary. I represent the R, and I'm formally inviting these men to join us. The Ark always welcomes capable survivors. The deputy's mind worked at lightning speed. We're I, he said, we'll join the Ark. Behind High, dozens of men dropped their weapons in a show of total submission. I leaned back against the counter and gave a casual wave of my hand. The mountain of 100 cases of meat slid across the ground to the deputy. The deputy was sharp. He walked over to Bailu immediately. Manager Bale, thank you. We're offering these supplies as a tribute to the Ark. The other survivors watched with envy, but no one dared to make a move. This time, not a single person dared to object to my rules. Bailu took his place at the front of the line. The thin man from the hive quietly lined up right behind him. I looked at Bailu. What do you want? Compressed biscuit, wat, and instant noodles. As soon as he spoke, he opened 2 crates filled with 50 gold bars and 20 gold coins. Once the trade was done, he didn't leave. Boss, do you take pre-orders? I do. What exactly do you need? Antibiotic, cold medicine, as much as you can get your hands on. Go back and make a list. Bring a deposit when you return. I'll have everything ready for you next time. Next up was the thin man from the hive. Like Bale, he ordered medicine, but added a request for cigarettes and alcohol. After the major players finished their business, Derrick's CRC's Karaziprower, the independent scavengers started to approach. Some had gold bars. Others only had a few small gold coins to their name. But the one man pulled out something I hadn't seen yet. It was a car battery. The energy density and lifespan of the batteries in this world were nearly double the technology of my own world. It hit me all at once. I realized I'd only been treating this world like a gold ATM. I had completely ignored the advanced technology of this place. Possessed before the disaster hit, I turned around and pulled out a special set of supplies. 2 loaves of fresh bread, a bottle of wat, and 2 sausages. Every survivor watching was absolutely stunned. I was giving away a king's ransom in food for a single battery. In the future, I'll be accepting high-end technology as payment too. At the back of the crow, several lone wolves started circling the man with the battery. He clutched the heavy food to his chest, his entire body shaking with fear. In this wasteland, food like this isn't a blessing. It's a target on your back. I'm not done with him. Who dares to move? I'll pay a few more cases for your heads. The scavengers froze. They knew the third leader of the Tomahawks was rotting nearby. I looked at the man with the battery. What's your name? Shuawen. Where did this battery come from? I asked. I used to be a battery engineer at Yankian Technology. This Raytheon Type 7 was our company's flagship product. When the outbreak high, we had just finished a massive production run. There are tens of thousands of finished batteries sitting in the warehouse. But the thousands of employees there have all turned into zombies. I felt a surge of cold calculation. If I use my gold to replicate a production line back in my world, the specs on this Type 7 could trigger a global energy revolution. Assuming the production line is long gone, can you get the full manufacturing data for this battery? Everything. Raw material formula, processing step, the works. The full data is stored on the park's main server. Beyond. As long as I can get to that serve, I can pull the data. The way I looked at him changed instantly. He wasn't just a starving engineer anymore. He was a walking treasure map. But I'd need the local power players to pull this off. I looked at Zhou Yuan and made my decision. From now on, you work for me. You'll evaluate every piece of tech I receive. In exchange, I'll provide all the food and water you need. Purr, uncontrollable joy washed over his face. He had just secured a one-way ticket to paradise. The other survivors were quick to catch on. If Zhou Yuan could trade a battery for a new lift, why couldn't they? A tech-driven gold rush exploded among the survivors. A motherboard from a wrecked military drone. A sealed biological sample cooler. Even half-burned pages from an academic journal. I didn't turn anyone away. I just handed everything to Zhou Yuan for appraisal. The frenzy lasted well into the early morning hours. The two blinding headlights cut through the dark, followed by a powerful engine roar. Bai Lu and the thin man stepped out of their vehicles at the same time. Several crates of gold bars and coins were slammed onto the ground. This is the deposit from the Ark and the Hive. I've received your payment. I'll have your goods ready for the next trade. Bai Lu and the thin man bowed low, keeping their posture humble. Even though the deal was done, neither of them moved to leave. Their eyes kept drifting toward Zhou Yuan and the pile of tech on the floor. I kept my expression calm and unreadable. There's a tech park in the North District with tens of thousands of Type 7 batteries. But there are over 5,000 zombies there. It's a death trap. I'm giving you a chance to get rich. I'll provide the funding. You provide the muscle to empty that park and bring me the main server intact. The risk was suicida, but the reward was god tier. More important, it was a chance to build a real bond with a mysterious merchant. The Hive accept, the thin man barked. We have the best elite strike teams in the ruins. We'll get it done. Don't get ahead of yourself, Bai Lu countered. The Ark has the best tech equipment. Decrypting and transporting that server is a job only we can handle. We can do it perfectly. We have the largest number of awakened. We guarantee to bring that server back intact. 5,000 zombies? Even awakened have limits. Going in there is a death sentence. Scorpio cut in. Brute force won't work. Without tech staff, you won't even get past the gate. The chief engineer of Tianqian, Wan Chengmi, is at our lighthouse. No one knows that park better. The expressions on Bale, Waz, and Scorpio's faces shifted instantly. The lighthouse really did have a hidden ace up its sleeve. Enough. I don't care if you're the R, Pans, or whoever else. I only care about results. If that server has a single scratch, don't expect to get another grain of rice from me. The representatives of the four factions turned pale at my words. My ultimatum was direct, cold, and absolutely ruthless. Pansy and the lighthouse began to cooperate immediately. With the first two on board, the others joined. An unprecedented alliance was born. A terrifying army of nearly 100 awakened and hundreds of elite soldiers took shape. He's going with you, I say, gesturing to Zhou Yuan. If he comes back with even a single hair missing, you'll all pay the price. Boss, don't worry. We guarantee Mr. Zhou Yuan's safety with our lives. There's still one reason, Bai Lu noted. The Tomahawk's third leader died here. Lei Bao is a vengeful man. He won't let this go easily. If they sabotaged the mission while the army fought the horde, the results would be fatal. Every eye in the square focused back on me once again. 10 cases of meat for a Tomahawk grunt, 100 for a captain, 1,000 for Lei Bao. Whether it's you or a Wasteland drifter, bring me his Hia and the food is yours. The four faction leaders let out a collective cold gasp. The risk Bai Lu was so worried about was nothing compared to the death warrant I had just signed. A deathly silence fell over the ruins. No one dared to harbor petty thoughts anymore. Today it was the Tomahawks, tomorrow it could be them. There is no negotiating with a bounty. Baelwaz, Scorpio, and Professor G. These four powerhouse, who could shake the wasteland with a stee, didn't say another word. They assigned tasks at lightning speed and scrambled into their vehicles. Before leaving, Bai Lu walked over to Zhou Yuan. Mr. Zhou Yuan, please come with us. We need every detail you have on that park. Zhou Yuan instinctively looked at M, waiting for a command. I gave him a sly, sharp nod of approval. He climbed into the Ark's vehicle without hesitation. Once the doors closed, I didn't jump back to my world immediately. I pulled out every gold bar I'd earned today and began to consume the energy. The familiar searing pain returned as the last trace of energy was absorbed. I snapped my eyes open. My power had reached a new level. Current storage capacity, 3,000 cubic meters. But it wasn't just the space that had grown. Karmic energy control. I could now manipulate objects up to 200 kilograms in midair and accelerate them like railgun slugs. I looked at a heavy metal shelf in the corner of the shop. With just a glance, the metal shrieked and crushed into a high-density cube. 12 minutes left until the jump. That Raytheon battery was a seed of ambition. I was no longer satisfied with being a simple middleman. I need to build my own business empire in the SAF modern world. Those hundreds of tons of gold have to be turned into liquid capital immediately. But selling that much gold through normal channels is impossible. A name flashed through my mind. That loan shark, Bia, must have deep connections in the city's gray market. Using him as a middleman is the most efficient move I can make right now. Once the cash is in hand, I'll fill my 1,000 cubic meter warehouse to the brim. I'll register a technology company. I need the infrastructure ready for when I receive the Tianqiang data. My plan is crystal clear. Every step leads to that one massive goal. The dimensional jump is ready. With a single throw, that familiar weightlessness swallows me whole. Jump complete. Current world, Earth. Cooldown for the next trip, 11 hours? Outside the window, the neon lights and city traffic are humming. Compared to the rotting ruins I just left, this feels like a different universe. The contrast only makes me more determined to hold on to this power. Back on Blue Street, I didn't leave my shop right away. I lay down on the bed. My mind is stronger, no, but my body still needs rest. When I finally opened my eye, it was 11 in the morning. I grabbed a quick lunch and dialed Biao's number. Hello, who is this? It's Xiao Wu. Brother Wu, what can I do for you? I have a batch of goods I need to move. Brother Wu? If you don't mind me asking, is this stuff clean? A little risk, but nothing major. Meet me at the cement factory, alone. Understood. I'll be there on time. 3 o'clock rolled around quickly. Back at the same abandoned cement factory, but this time I was the one sitting comfortably on the sofa. Biao arrived right on time, barely daring to breathe in my presence. Brother W, what kind of goods are we talking about? I casually pulled a gold bar out of a sack. Biao's pupils contracted the moment he saw it. A 500-gram gold bar is easy enough to sell at any big jewelry store. But just as he was thinking that, I pulled the sack open wider. It was overflowing with gold. Biao froze where he stood, his mind going completely blank. 20 bars, each one weighing 500 grams. His body began to shake uncontrollably at the sight of 10 kilograms of gold. To Hai, this looked like a bank heist or an armored car robbery. He realized this wasn't little risk. This was a one-way ticket to the gallows. Brother Wu, are you trying to get me killed? I looked him in the eye. Can you handle it or not? Biao stayed silent, feeling completely unworthy of a deal this size. He couldn't even look at me. He already saw me as a cold-blooded monster. If you can't handle a small amount of gold like they, then I have no use for you. I'll just find someone else in the underworld who can... I don't dare touch a case this big. This gold is clean. No history. I'm just too lazy to sell it off in tiny pieces. Do you get my point? Mr. W, can I make a call to check with my brothers in the underworld? I waved my hand. Biao looked like he'd been pardoned from a death sentence. He didn't even dare walk away to make the call. He just put it on speaker. Hey, Biaozi. What's up, Ladle? Has there been any gold-related heist in this area? The voice on the other end was confused. What heist? There are cameras everywhere now. Who dare? Did you strike it, Rick, kid? You looking to buy gold? Biao looked like he just swallowed a sedative. He hung you, and the way he looked at me changed. Mr. W, I can't handle a load this size on my own, but I know someone who can. I gave him another nod. Biao timidly dialed a new number. What is it? Sister S, it's Biao. I have a gentleman here. He has a batch of gold he wants to move. He paused. 10 kilograms, and there's more. This time, the silence on the other end lasted even longer. In half an hour, brother, let me see the goods in person. Half an hour late, we arrived at a private club. Sister Sue was a woman dressed in an elegant cheongsam. She gestured for me to sit. I didn't waste time with pleasantries and took a seat at the table. I slid the heavy sack onto the table. The woman they called Sister Sue didn't stop pouring tea. She pushed a cup in front of me and finally spoke, her voice slow and measured. What's your name, friend? Xiao Wu. Mr. W, may I see the goods? I gave her a nod. I opened the bag. 10 gold bars lay there, gleaming silently. Sister Sue was a total professional. She inspected them for a long time before muttering to herself, the color is perfect. The weight is exact. These are standard bars. Finally, she looked up to meet my eyes. Mr. W, a batch this large, where did it come from? I picked up the teacup and took a slow sip. Mr. W, I want to trust you, but this business has rules. 10 kilos is no small amount. I didn't say a word. I just looked at Biao. Biao understood the look immediately and hurried out of the room. I pulled a gold bar from the bag and under Sister Sue's watchful gaze, I applied a little pressure. The solid gold bar crumpled like Play-Doh in my hands. She realized someone with my power didn't need dirty business. She took a breath and gave her price. 700 per gram, 7 million for the 10 kilos. I didn't accept or refuse. I just asked. What's the maximum you can handle? A flicker of hesitation crossed Sister Sue's face. You're testing the absolute limits of my entire network, sir. If the goods are as clean as these, I can move 50 kilograms a month for you. That meant 35 million a month? Too little. I slowly held up one finger. 1,000 kilograms, 1 full ton. Sister Sue's professional mask finally shattered. Mr. W, are you joking? A ton of gold is worth nearly 1 billion yuan. My network simply can't absorb that much, she stammered. It's impossible. No private channel in the world can move a ton of gold in a single month. That's declaring war on the entire financial system. It will attract too much heat. I had already anticipated her reaction. What if I don't need it all in cash? I asked calmly. Are you suggesting an asset swap? I need an industrial park or a battery manufacturing plant. She stared at M, completely speechless. She saw a man who could crush gold bars with his bare hands and produce a ton of pure gold every 30 days. He didn't want a luxury life. He wanted to build an empire. This was a level of investment she couldn't even fathom. Mr. W, this is far beyond my authority. I have to call my boss. She stepped away and spoke into the phone with frantic urgency. She reported the 300 kilos in stock and the ton per month potential. When she returned, she was no longer a negotiator. She was a messenger. Mr. W, my boss wants to meet you in person. Tomorrow at 7, right here. I nodded and pointed at the gold. Take this first. To show our sincerity, we'll pay 810 per gram. In less than 5 minutes, my account balance surged by 800 million. Sister Sue personally saw me out until my van disappeared from sight. Biao approached her with a grease-hopeful smile. Sister S, how did it go? That Mr. Wu guy? From now on, don't ask a single question about high. She snapped. If he tells you to jump, you ask how high. No one can protect you if you cross him. Biao shivered and nodded like a terrified child. I didn't go back to the shop. I headed straight to the wholesale market. The manager who served me last time saw me coming and immediately ran out to greet me. Boss Wu, you're back. What can I get for you today? I handed him the list. Take every category and multiply the quantity by 10. His hands shook as he looked at the ord, promising to handle everything. I swiped my card for 2 million without blinking. I spent the next few hours shuttling between warehouses until I had filled most of my dimensional storage, but I had a more important mission to complete. In the Wasteland, a simple box of antibiotics is worth more than its weight in gold. I drove to the city's wholesale medical district. I ignored the flashy pharmacies and found a small shop in a back alley. The middle-aged owner looked up. Do you have a prescription or a license? And I said, then I can't sell to you. Move along. I didn't argue. I just pulled out my phone and showed him my balance. A long string of zeros flashed across the screen, hitting him like a physical blow. Amoxicillin, iodine, gauze, saline. How much do you have in stock? I want everything you've got. His breath hitched. What are you planning to do with all this? Just tell me if you're selling or not. He took a deep breath. Follow me. Half an hour late, my van was packed with boxes of medicine. 1,000,000 yuan gone just like that. Next stop, the hardware store. I want 20 diesel generators of this exact model. Solar panel, backup batteries. I bought everything they had. Wrench, plier, welding machines. Don't take them apart. I want them in the original crates. Last stop, the gas station. Regular pumps couldn't handle an order this big. Luckily, Biao had given me the address of a private fuel depot hidden in the countryside. When the owner heard I wanted hundreds of barrels of gas and diesel, he almost called me his long-lost father on the spot. The millions I spent today will be returned to me. Thousands of times over in the Wasteland, I had 30 minutes left on my cooldown, but I decided to wait. It was still the middle of the night over there. I wanted to time my arrival for daybreak. I opened my eyes at exactly 6 in the morning. The familiar weightlessness instantly wrapped around my entire body. Jump complete. Current era, the apocalypse, cooldown for the next trip. 10 hours. As soon as I opened the dew, a group of scavengers swarmed me. I have a battery. Want to see? He held a Raytheon Type 7. A second late, the battery vanished, replaced by bread and mineral water. For the next few minutes, survivors rushed the stall in a frenzy. Then 7 o'clock hit. With a low vibratio, the 4 major factions are each pulled up in their own vehicles. Boss, we're ready. The tech staff and equipment are all in place. Fox has already moved out to clear the path ahead. Engineer Wan Chongmin confirmed the server's location. We're ready to go. Has everyone eaten breakfast? I asked. The sudden question left Scorpio and the others completely stunned. I didn't wait for them to respond. I gave a casual wave of my hand. Cases of instant noodles, self-heating Rick, and canned meat piled into a mountain of supplies. I watched their throats move as they swallowed hard. For these people, just getting enough to eat was a daily struggle. Eating a meal like this was an impossible luxury. What are you waiting for? It's a reward from the boss. Eat. In an instant, they formed orderly lines to receive their rations. The soldiers' eyes turned red as they shoveled food into their mouths. If breakfast was this goo, they could only imagine the final reward. They'd be eating meat every day. While they enjoyed their feast, I had another idea. Several more cardboard boxes hit the ground. They landed with a heavy thud. It wasn't food this time. It was cigarettes. In the apocalypse, cigarettes are the ultimate currency. 2 packs for every grun, and a full carton for every awakened. These weren't just supplies, they were a promise of power. It was a spiritual luxury, more effective than any pep talk. It didn't just fill their stomachs, it calmed their frayed nerves. Just when they thought I was done, I raised my hand again. This time, I brought out several black cases marked with complex icons. The professor stepped forward and clicked one of the cases open. Inside were high-end reconnaissance drones. The other cases held tactical communication radios, anti-jamming technology, long-lasting battery, and thermal imaging. With these, we can spot 90% of the danger before we even encounter it. Scorpy, Bale, and Wasp crowded around, their breathing heavy. In the past, they were fighting blind. They scouted on foot and yelled to communicate. This was total technological dominance. The morale of the entire combat force was reaching a fever pitch. Fed and satisfied, they were at their absolute peak. They were ready for war. If this were the Richter scale, the engine roar would be a 10. The sound of the motors merged into a single torrent of steel. The ground beneath the ruins began to tremble. The four major powers advanced toward the Tianqian Tech Park. Pansy's heavy trucks led the charge at the front. They smashed through abandoned vehicles along the way. The ARC's units took the center flank. Bailu monitored the perimeter with a drone, coordinating the route. Wasp's motorcycle squads swarmed the flanks like hornets. The lighthouse transport vehicles followed close behind. They were protecting Professor X, the Tech T, and Wan Chun. She whose voice crackled over the radio? Small group detected 500 meters ahead. Bailu didn't hesitate. ARC Team W eliminate them. Several off-road vehicles veered away from the main convoy. The roof-mounted machine guns began to spit fire. A heavy rain of lead instantly shredded the zombies. The slaughter was absolute. The operation didn't slow down for even a second. Everything was moving with letha, professional precision. Back at my show, I lay on a folding bee watching the drone feed. The steel convoy reached the park and stopped a kilometer from the gate. Tianqian Tech Park was a fortress, surrounded by 5-meter alloy walls. Watchtowers with flashing red lights stood every 100 meters. The soldiers fanned out, setting up a defensive perimeter. Scorpy, Bale, Waz, and Professor Shi gathered around a monitor. Their expressions were solemn as they studied the park's layout. The main gate was a massive slab of locked alloy. We'll need high-powered explosives to breach the eye, the tech reported. Scorpio let out a cruel laugh. Good. The noise will lure them all out. Better to kill them at the gate than hunt them one by one. Bailu immediately began drawing up the kill zone. We'll set up a fan-shaped defense centered on the breach. We hold the line and slaughter every horde that tries to escape. The lighthouse team will handle the demolition. Wasp will handle surveillance and cleanup. And Pansy's people will hold the front line. The four forces move in syn, functioning like a precision war machine. Pansy's warriors build the first defensive line and mount heavy machine guns. The ARC's personnel deploy directional mines while Earth-type awakened brace the ground. The solid Earth begins to roll like waves under their touch. Trenches appear out of nowhere, forming complex ambush zones in seconds. Demolition experts stick high-powered explosives to the alloy gate and retreat. One moment. A second later, a deafening explosion rips through the air. A massive breach appears in the alloy gate, followed by a deathly silence. It lasts only seconds before a flood of corpses erupts from the gap. The zombies surge forward, charging straight for our defensive line. Fire! Bailu scream and a rain of lead shreds the zombie horde. But there are too many. They crawl over their own dead to keep charging. In the blink of an eye, the frontline trenches are overflowing with rotting bodies. More zombies scramble over the wall of flesh to reach us. Right then, the directional mines are triggered. A massive blast clears the field in a spray of gore. The gap is filled instantly by a fresh black tide. Scorpio roar, hold the line, and hoist a light machine gun. He fires frantically into the heart of the approaching horde. Pansy's warriors behind him hold the line with everything they have. On my monitor, blood flies everywhere as I watch with a cold, expressionless face. I adjust the drone, seeing the internal zombie horde finally start to thin out. Just the Nightingale appears at the corner with a group of awakened. They stare at my shelves with pure greed, but Nightingale stays calm. She looks me in the eye. I heard you're hitting the tech park. We can help. I scan her Cree, a playful smile tugging at the corner of my lips. Help! Bailu and Scorpio are already more than enough for this. Nightingale's expression shift becoming less than subtle. She takes a deep breath. We can do what they do. Maybe even better. Suddenly, I'm interested. I point to the monitor in front of me. Those zombies coming out of the gap? They're yours. As a down payment, go to Bailu and get 1 can of beef each. Show me if you actually deserve a seat at my table. The awakened look at M, their faces burning with shame and fury. 1 can of meat for our lives? Do you think we're beggars? One barks. Yejin ignores Hai, looking only at me. Shut up. If you want to leave, get lost. The rest of you, get your cans. We're going to work. She starts walking toward the par, leaving her men behind. The awakened followers stand there, glancing at each other in silence. A moment late, a man with a scar grits his teeth and follows. The rest of them follow, one after another. I take it all a cold smile spreading across my face. I'm not thinking about the money. I'm building a force that will always be loyal. Moments late, Yejin appeared with a dozen awakened. Bailu frowned when she saw but Yejin didn't waste a second. Orders from the boss. This breach belongs to us now. Bailu didn't ask any more questions. She just handed out a crate of canned beef. Yejin and the others took it without a word. Then they headed straight for the zombie horde. Bailu watched with a conflicted Lu, not understanding why I'd send these scavengers into battle. She suppressed her doubts and gave the order. Everyone conserve ammo. Focus fire on the flanks. The gunfire slowed down. A deadly gap opened up in front of the defensive line. Countless zombies funneled frantically toward the opening. Suddenly, the man with the scar roared like a wild anima, transforming into a 7-foot-tall beast man. He slammed into the zombie horde. A dozen zombies were torn apart. In a single instant, the others, seeing the opening, also sprang into action. For a moment, the awakened held the line. They were like weeds growing wild. on the battlefield. But their lack of coordination soon became obvious. The awakened were fighting for themselves. No teamwork, just raw savage efficiency. Their defense was full of hole, and zombies began to slip through. Bailu's team had to cover them. She was about to scream at them. Yejin stood at the back, only moving when the group started to collapse. She raised her hand, and a strange fire lotus bloomed in her palm. Fall back! The awakened scrambled away in a panic. A second late, Yejin stepped forward. She gently pushed the fire lotus into the air. It drifted into the center of the zombie horde. The moment it touched the ground, a firestorm erupted, turning hundreds of zombies into ash. The flames died out, leaving everyone frozen in shock. In that moment, I leaned back and smiled at the monitor. This Yejin is definitely interesting. She's strong enough and has a clear heat, but the rest of them are just a mob. As I watched, the zombies pouring from the breach finally started to thin out. Bailu and the others noticed it too. Morale soared as a new round of fire completely strangled the zombie nest. Bailu's voice rang out across the entire battlefield. All unit advance, maintain formation. Stay alert and enter the park. Secure the central plaza immediately. The sound of the engines roared once again. A torrent of steel surged deep into the heart of the tech park. The park was a maze of roads lined with high-tech buildings. It didn't take long. Professor G successfully connected to the local network. A three-dimensional map was projected onto the screens. Bailu quickly divided the map into 4 sectors for maximum efficiency. Pansy was tasked with clearing the east zone while Zhou Yuan checked the lines. Wasp took the perimeter and roof while the Ark handled the admin building. Denta's squad was assigned to escort the professor. They headed for the R&D building. To locate the main server, with the orders give, the joint force split up. They moved with professional speed toward their respective targets. However, Yejin and her group were left standing alone. They looked at each other. With complex expressions in their eyes, they watched the 4 major powers march off to the real glory. Bailu pulled up. The boss has a message. Clear the 6 dormitories to the north. Yejin nodded slightly upon hearing the command. She led her group toward the dormitory zone without a word of complaint. Meanwhile, the escort team arrived at the R&D building. Professor G sent a team to clear the halls before taking the elevator to sub-level 3. The elevator door slid open silently at the end of a long, dark corridor. Wan Chongmin stepped forward. He punched a series of codes into the control panel by the heavy riot door. A mechanical click echoed as the door groaned open, releasing a blast of cold air. Rows of black server cabinets stood in the dark, their indicator lights blinking. The technicians rushed inside to locate the primary server. Su! Wan Chongmin shouted with excitement. I found it! Professor G hurried over as the rest of the team fanned out. They plugged the storage devices into the server ports and began the extraction. A green progress bar on the screen started its slow crawl forward. Boss, we've reached the target. Data copy will take 40 minutes. In the east zone, the combat team had already finished clearing the production floor. Zhou Yuan stood before a massive piece of equipment, his fingers flying across the panel. The indicator light at the top of the machine flickered from red to green. He yelled into his radio. The main structure is intact. We just need parts and power. Where are the batteries the GCG wanted? Scorpio asked. Zhou Yuan pointed to the warehouse. Then the warrior pried the door open. Shelves stretched into the dar, packed with batteries, brand new, each one bearing the famous 7-Star Bull logo. The soldier stepped forward and sliced a crate open with his knife. More than a dozen new batteries rolled out onto the floor. Pansy's warriors were stunned. Zhou Yuan walked through the aisles with his tablet, scanning quickly. The inventory codes. At least 30,000 battery, all in perfect condition. The damage rate is under 5%. Scorpio felt pure ecstasy. If we bring this back, the GCG rewards will be a mountain of supplies. Zhou Yuan shouted again. There are 2 complete production lines here. He laughed and radioed me. 30,000 batteries and 2 production lines found. Back at my show, I was still leaning on my folding bed. The radio was full of good news. Wasp has secured every strategic point. The dorms were clear, but my expression didn't change at all. I used telekinesis to grab a Coke and took a long drink. Sue, the data copy was finished. The batteries were packed. Then, the 4 teams regrouped at the gate. Scorpio started to feel restless. He didn't know if I'd agree. Cold sweat ran down his back. The army returned to the shop. A strange silence fell as all eyes fixed on the shutter. The roller door rose slowly. I walked out with a calm expression. I locked eyes with Scorpio. You mentioned something about a celebration earlier. Scorpio's heart sank. I was out of Lin. He stammered, sweat on his brow. I cut him off. Not bad. I raised my hand and gave a casual wave. A hill of meat appeared. Poor bee, chickie, and duck. The sound of thousands of men swallowing filled the air. What are you waiting for? There's enough meat for everyone today. The crowd froze for a split second. The thunderous cheers ripped through the clouds. The soldiers charged toward the mountain of meat. Pansy's warriors started the charcoal fires. The Ark's team began washing the vegetables. Wasp's scouts fanned out to pull guard duty for the feast. Within minute, the scent of grilled meat filled the plaza. Everyone feasted on BBQ and drank ice-cold beer. It felt like the world. Before the disaster, Nightingale stood at the edge, watching me in silence. She watched her people eating their fill. She realized I wasn't giving them a handout or an insult. I was teaching them that being a lone wolf only gets you scraps. They had to submit to the king to enjoy the feast he provided. I leaned against the doorframe, sipping a Coke. Scorpio ran you, face flush, and bowed solemnly. Boss W, from now, Pansy is your most loyal ally. My life is yours. I didn't say a word. I just crushed the empty can and tossed it. I spoke softly. Stay obedient, and you'll have meat at every meal. I turned around and stepped back into the shadows of my shop. Those words were like a shot of adrenaline to their hearts. My presence seemed to wrap around the entire plaza as the revelry continued. Professor G and the other leaders sat around a simple table. They knew it clearly. The rules of the ruins had changed forever. Hours late, the fires died out and the mountain of meat was gone. The roller door rose silently and I stepped out again. Every eye in the plaza snapped toward me instantly. I simply raised my hand and gave it a wave. Mountains of supplies appeared out of thin air. Biscuit, Rick, and more. Stacks of canned meat and cartons of cigarettes were piled high. There are 2 batches of supplies here. One is the reward I promised the 4 major factions. The other is for everyone else who participated in the war. Claim your share based on your merit in battle. Bailu will handle the distribution. Scorpy, you assist her. I turned my back on them and headed back inside. Thunderous cheers erupted across the plaza yet again. Bailu began recording names and organizing the distribution. They knew the old era was over. There was only one rule now. Mine. The fleet engines roared to life. They rolled out, leaving the plaza empty except for piles of bones. Nightingale and her awakened stood alone in the center of the square. They felt the weight of the silence in their hearts. I looked at them. With a casual wave, I summoned dozens of cases of noodles and cans. Carlo, the man with the SKA, let out a roar of frustration. You're treating us like rags to be thrown away after one use. The crowd behind him began to sigh, their anger rising. Nightingale didn't move. She stepped forward and looked me straight in the eye. Scavengers will be watching. Unguarded supplies will be emptied in a day. The main forces are going back to rest. They won't return soon. We are the only ones who can go back to the park right now. The awakened behind her went silent, glancing at each other. I let the corner of my mouth curl into a smirk. If that's the case, then you won't be free awakened anymore. In Stea, you'll be my first special operations team. Codename Night. Nightingale, you're the captain. My voice left no room for argument. Nightingale nodded, and I summoned a Generato, Few, and a drone. Next came a control tablet and a dozen military walkie-talkies. Take this gear to the tech park dorms and report every mouse that sneaks in. They all stared at the equipment with fixed eyes. Even Nightingale couldn't hide a trace of uncontrollable excitement. She turned to her crew and shouted, "Count the supplies, prepare to move out." This time, the response was a unanimous, "Yeah, Captain." They began to check the supplies. The engines roared as they drove off toward the tech park. I watched them then slowly pulled down the metal roller door. My shop returned to its usual silence. I stared at the complex industrial blueprints and battery tech on my screen. The smile tugged at my lips as I prepared to return home. I'll use the gold in my warehouse as my starting capital, and use this high-end tech as my foundation. I'm going to build a commercial empire that is truly mine. News of the trade spread through the plaza like wildfire. A massive crowd of survivors gathered in front of my shop in no time. I appeared at the do, but I didn't bring food. I just spoke coldly. I repeated my rules. Trade valuables for survivor. Then I appointed an administrator. A simple, efficient trade market began to operate right then and there. The survivors lined up to trade their scavenged junk for life. I sat inside the show watching the process. I was collecting the scraps of the old world into my dimensional warehouse. Time ticked by as the trade market hummed with efficiency. The line stretched for hundreds of meters across the plaza. I told the administrator, trading ends at 5 sharp. No exceptions. He trembled, then screamed to the crow, "Boss Wu says we close at 5. I nodded. This guy had potential. He was a real talent. I radioed Nightingale. Send 2 men to bring the administrator to the park. The man's body shook with pure emotion when he heard the order. He turned toward my shop and bowed 3 times in deep gratitude. I went back to my computer. Trading ended at 5 sharp. Nightingale's men arrived and the survivors dispersed without a word. The plaza returned to its eerie silence. I focused my mind. The air distorted and a blurry vortex opened before my eyes. In a blink, I was back in the real world with 2 hours to spare. I went straight to the most exclusive mall in the city center. I walked into a high-end men's boutique. An hour later, I walked out in a custom dark gray suit. I wasn't a shopkeeper anymore. I was a gentleman. At 7 p.m. I pulled up to the courtyard. My white van stopped right in front of the gate. I stepped out of the driver's seat while Suwon watched. She was there to welcome me personal, but I ignored her. I walked to the back and pulled out 2 heavy metal cases. From the back of the van, the metal groaned under the sheer weight of the contents. Suwon's pupils contracted at the sight of 300 kilograms of gold. I carried one in each hand as if they weighed nothing at all. Suwan took a deep breath, hiding her shock as she gestured for me to follow. I felt cold auras lurking in the shadows of the courtyard like a nest of vipers. She led me deep into the building to a private study. I saw a mahogany desk and shelves of book with an old man reading behind it. Suwan walked up to him and bowed deeply. He looked up slowly. Elder Ta, Mr. Wu has arrived. He closed his book and fixed his gaze on me. I met his eyes calmly and slammed the 2 heavy cases down. The mahogany desk groaned under the weight. 300 kilograms of gold? Let's verify it. Elder Tan didn't touch the boxes, he just arched an eyebrow. He picked up the desk phone. A man in gold-rimmed glasses entered carrying a precision testing kit. He flipped the lids open, revealing rows of neatly stacked gold bars. The expert began taking samples of the metal. One by one, the testing was finished quickly. The man looked up at the old man. Elder Ta, 600 bars, 300 kilograms. The purity is perfect. Elder Tan waved his hand, dismissing the expert and Suwan from the room. He crossed his fingers on the desk. I can give you 246 million for this. He pushed a tablet toward me. Suwan says you're looking for a battery company. I didn't even look at the screen. I want Yuan's technology. Elder Tan's pupils contracted. That company was a total wreck with worthless assets. It was obvious I only needed the legal shell of the business. The old man didn't say a word. He called legal to prepare the transfer and told finance to process the gold. After he hung up, multiple departments began, operating at high speed. The contract documents were delivered. In less than an hour, I picked up the pen and signed my name immediately. Elder Tan was stunned. He didn't expect me to sign without reading a single term. I looked at him with an expressionless face. I'm the owner now. I want the employee records. Freeze every account and seal every asset immediately. Nothing leaves without my order. Tell everyone the meeting is at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Anyone absent is considered an automatic resignation. I'll have my people handle it. What do you want to do with the remaining gold? I handed him a cigarette. I need 5 million in cash. Keep the rest for now. I'll transfer it later. Elder Tan looked at me with a meaningful smile. He found me more and more unfathomable. Suwan returned with a card. 2 black cases sat on it. Mr. W, here's the 5 million you asked for. I stood, gave Elder Tan a slight no and grabbed the heavy cases. I tossed them onto the passenger seat of my van and drove away. Back in the stud, Suwan turned to Elder Tan. Are we really going to cooperate this deeply with him? His origins are far too mysterious. His behavior is overbearing and completely unreasonable. The data shows his life was mediocre, but suddenly he has unimaginable wealth. Elder Tan turned around slowly and spoke with a chilling calm. Destroy every scrap of data you found. Leave no trace. Never investigate Mr. Wu again. Satisfy his every need, no matter the cost. Suwan's eyes narrowed. I understand. 8:45 a.m. the next day. Wenshin Technology. Hundreds of anxious employees gathered. The roar of an engine approached the factory gate. Every eye in the crowd turned toward the entrance. I walked slowly into the center of the workshop. I held a file folder in my hand. Under my gaze, the chatter died instantly. I opened the folder. I looked directly at the director of Wenshin Technology. You have 10 minutes to pack your personal belongings. And get the hell out. The entire workshop froze. The director's face turned a violent shade of red. This is a rebellion. Who do you think you are to talk to me like that? The chief engineer stepped forward to intercede. We've made breakthroughs in design. We just need more time and funding. I cut him off mid-sentence. 3 years. 78 million wasted. Your batteries are garbage and a fire hazard. The engineer nearly collapsed. You don't understand. You're destroying us. I looked him in the eye. Wenshin was already destroyed in your hands. I am here for its rebirth. We are going to flip the entire battery industry on its head. The workers looked at each other, doubt and unease thick in the air. I didn't stop there. I began calling out the names of several high-level executives, listing their corruption one by one. They realized this wasn't a meeting. It was a purge. Arrogance vanished, replaced by the fear of prison. The director went pale. But I wasn't finished. My voice was like a cold scythe. I named the lazy ones in logistics, the ones who did nothing but collect a check. Faced with my record, they couldn't say a word. They walked out in shame. 10 minutes late, a fifth of the staff was gone. A chill settled over the remaining employees. The tension in the air was unlike anything they had ever felt. Right then, I closed the folder and pulled a heavy suitcase from my car. I hauled the case into the center of the workshop. I flipped it open in front of everyone. 5 million in cash, neatly stacked red bills for everyone to see. A 50% raise for everyone's stand, and all back pay is settled today. Line up. Every single one of you gets a 10,000 yuan bonus right now. For a moment, the workshop fell into a stunned silence. But like a volcano, a thunderous cheer erupted. Every bit of doubt and suspicion burned away into ash. A long line spontaneously formed. They all moved forward. They took their money and bowed deeply to me. But a discordant voice rang out. Sun Lei, an assistant engineer from R, and spoke up with a calm intensity. Director W, I'm Sun Lei. I worked under Chief Engineer Chen on materials. The management is gone and the chief is fired. What exactly are we producing? As soon as she finished speaking, the entire workshop fell into a heavy silence. A company that loses its products is a company that cannot survive. They realized they were still staring down the barrel of unemployment. Every eye in the room fixed on Am, waiting for an answer. I didn't bother with a long-inspiring speech. I pulled out the Raytheon Type 7 battery. This is the answer. From now we only produce one thing, the Yuanshin number 1. Sun Lei and several technicians crowded around the small device. Their eyes were full of curiosity and sharp professional scrutiny. What are the core parameters, she asked. Energy density of 400 watt-hours per kilogram. Full load cycle life of 500 times. The air seemed to freeze as the technicians gasped in unison. Sun Lei nearly screamed, "That's impossible. Those numbers violate the laws of physics. Compared to the world's best prototype, this is pure fantasy." I met the tsunami of doubt with a cold stare. That's exactly what I want. The testing equipment is right there. Use your most professional tools. Use the strictest standards to prove me wrong. Sun Lei stood there, stunned by my absolute confidence. She didn't waste another second. "Technical and quality departments," she shouted. "Follow me." She stepped forward, and with trembling hand, carefully took the battery from me. She led the charge straight to the second-floor laboratory. 30 minutes late, she came running back down like a madwoman. She was shaken, clutching several test reports in her hands. "The results are she gasped, her voice cracking. "Energy density is 401.7 watt-hours per kilogram. Capacity loss under violent charge discharge testing is only 0.3%. And it passed every single safety test with flying colors." The workshop went dead silent as the news sank in. That block of metal suddenly looked like a mountain of gold. Sun Lei finished the announcement, unable to contain her emotions. She walked up to me and made a respectful bow. "From today, if you tell us to go east, we will never go west." I gestured to the staff. "Finish distributing the money. Record everything. Everyone at their posts by 9 a.m. tomorrow." I turned around without another word. I walked out under the weight of hundreds of fervent, loyal gazes. I drove away in my van. I picked up my phone and called Sun Lei. "I need you to handle a few things. Take the technical data I sent you and file for patent protection immediately. Junjin Nikram, list every technical detail as top secret. Hire a top-tier professional manager to run the day-to-day operations. Recruit the best battery experts in the country and call a press conference. Set it for 3 days from now." Sun Lei's eyes sparkled. She was floored by my aggressive, lightning-fast style. "I'll get it done immediately." I hung up the phone. In the stud, Suwan reported my demands to Elder Tan without missing a detail. "Do exactly as he say," Elder Tan order. His interest peaked. Under Elder Tan's command, his forces moved with frantic speed. Within 30 minutes, the patent office received the encrypted data. 3 top headhunting firms received the same commission. Tech headlines began to buzz, pushing Yuanshin technology into the spotlight. Meanwhile, I restocked my supplies as usual. I headed back into the apocalypse. I contacted Pans, the AR, and the other factions. I told them to bring gold and ore for trade while I dismantled the production lines. I called Yeji, gave her new supply, and had her coordinate with the 4 major powers. I knew Yejin's team alone couldn't protect the entire tech park, so I ordered her to start recruiting more awakened. I wanted to grow our numbers to at least 100. The cooldown for this trip dropped to 9 hours, nearing infinite travel. I stayed for over 10 hours this time. The survivors of the ruins brought a massive haul for trade. Once the trading was complete, I had 200 kilograms of gold and 30 grams of high-energy ore. I stashed the gold in my dimensional warehouse. I absorbed the energy from the ore directly. A moment late, my abilities surged once again. My warehouse capacity expanded to 0.000 cubic meters, and my telekinesis grew strong enough to lift 300 kilograms. Heavy objects were now like toys to me. I could even compress metal and accelerate objects with even more force. After finishing my business, I returned to the real world. I fell into a peaceful sleep. The next day, I headed over to Yuanshin Technology. The factory was more alive than Eve, with smiles on every face. Cheers erupted from the lab every few minutes as they tested the battery. I sat in my office just as I finished a call with Suwan. She was bringing in the top-tier talent I needed.